Hi guys, thanks so much for joining me. My session, Teaching Equity Through Literature, is focused for all grade levels, teachers in any content area. I'm going to share with you a bunch of mentor texts that I love, mostly picture books, but they could be used in any age level, but some chapter books as well. So I had said in the session description that I was going to share 20 books, but I ended up with 27 because I just couldn't narrow it down more. So I promise it still will be under a 50-minute session, but I am going to share a few extra books, maybe 28. So I'm going to tell you what teaching points could be used with each of the books, and what age level, and kind of the key things that I love about each book. Also, I want you to be aware before I start this conversation that I work in a very rural area of Missouri that is not very progressive. And so some of these books just stay on my shelf for kids to have the option to check out. I don't directly teach with all of them because the community I live in would not support that. But they at least allow me to buy the books and keep them on my shelves. So I want you to recognize wherever you live in the community you serve and what readiness level they have. Whether you disagree or agree with their readiness level for some of these controversial topics, you still have to gauge kind of an entry level of how you could start addressing and bringing more of this to the forefront. The reason I'm addressing any of these topics is because kids need to see mirrors of their lives to feel like more part of our world and fully accepted. And so this is all just about representation in literature and helping kids see people like themselves, but also let them see that there are people unlike themselves, and how to understand other people's perspectives and how to have empathy for other people, even if it's not your lifestyle. So let me get started. First book I want to share with you is called I Am Loved. It is actually a poetry collection. Sorry, I'm going to try to show you the books as much as I can. Every poem collected and curated in this is just about different ways of helping people feel loved. So it's a great message overall. Also, you'll notice throughout the imagery that it really celebrates African art and ethnicity throughout it. But I think that too often we just tend to go to those same poets we love over and over. Like, I love Shel Silverstein, and I need to do a better job of introducing other poets and other cultures through poetry. That poetry is so beautiful in other cultures. So this is a good starting place. Even if you were a high school teacher, you could use certain poems pulled out of it, for prompts and responses and things like that, or elementary level to discuss. Okay, I Am Loved by Nikki Giovanni. Any of these books I share, I got on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Walmart, that kind of thing. The next one is a bit heavier of a topic that you have to judge your audience on, like I mentioned earlier. This is called Prince and Knight. It is for elementary age level. It is an open LGBTQ story. The prince is searching for his mate, and the community and his parents just keep matching him with princesses. And then there's a big twist in the plot. So this is a really good book for teaching plot if you are working on that in your gifted classroom, and like unexpected for predicting. But you, besides that it teaches about LGBTQ, the cool part is it's not the only part of the storyline, and that there's other elements you can pull from. It does have a clear homosexual wedding at the end, so I just want you to be aware that that is a definite part of the plot. And then also one of the things I love about it is at the end it shows very clear parent and public community support of the prince and the knight. Spoiler, obviously they end up together because I said there's a wedding. But I like that there was a good example of no pushback or hatred, just full acceptance and love. Very cool. Cute illustrations for elementary in that one as well. The next one is one of my favorite current authors. I'm always so excited when he releases a new book, and I buy every one of his books. Dan Santat, and he sorry, I forgot to tell you that Prince and Knight is by Daniel Hack. But Dan Santat, this is a book called Drawn Together. And he also wrote After the Fall, which is a great mental health book. Great, great, great. Recommend it. It just doesn't fit my topic today, or I would have included it. And then Beagle, which is awesome for imagination and like personal belief. And so this book is all about generational acceptance and bridging the gap between the young and the old. And I think that ageism is a topic not covered very often when we talk about isms and about representation and also discrimination. So the boy and his grandfather don't speak the same language anymore, and they're struggling to connect, and they find ways to use art to connect, which is also a great message. And I like that they talk about finding common ground through the barrier of different languages. So beautiful illustrations. He always does like very cool, unique illustrations. He has a definite style. I would say this is good for kindergarten through 5th grade. Next is the book I Dissent. It's a biography all about Ruth Bader Ginsburg. So it's great if you're just doing a biography unit, a new updated one with good pictures. Sometimes our old biography texts are just pretty darn boring. This is written by Debbie Levy, or Levy. I want to read the inside flap to you because I think it helps summarize some of what you're going to get out of this biography. I disagree. I object. I beg to differ. I do not concur. I dissent. Disagreeing does not make a person disagreeable. What a powerful message for our gifted kids. In fact, it can change the world. Throughout her life, Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg has made a big difference, one disagreement at a time. So, I mean, I have some pretty argumentative, gifted kids in my class, right? I think that's kind of common in our population. And I want them to learn how to use that in an impactful, helpful way, and not just be ashamed of it as they grow older, that people think they're just difficult. So I like that that introduces this topic, but it also covers so much more stuff. It covers history because it starts back in her childhood in like the 30s and 40s. And so then it really covers how we were treating Jewish Americans during that time period. Powerful message. And it also talks about how women were really not welcome in the workforce or the college campuses, and like how she broke those barriers. The other thing I love this book for, has huge vocabulary. I mean, you saw that even in just the front cover, but the book itself just contains awesome vocabulary if you were doing a vocab unit. So, I Dissent. I want to tell you about one of my favorite chapter books next. I lent it to someone. I like it so much, and they're still reading it, so I don't have a copy to show you, but I'm sure most of you have heard of it. It's called The Hate U Give by Angie Thomas, and they made a movie out of it a few years ago. It was so popular. I didn't know that that phrase comes from a Tupac song and theory that the rapper had. But The Hate U Give is named after that. And it kind of parallels the story of Ferguson, Missouri, and the shooting there, and how the police and the justice system sometimes fail us. And it is very high school appropriate, not even middle school appropriate. The language and the life events are heavy, heavy topics. But the main character, you fall in love with quickly, and you're just rooting for her and her family and her friends, and just seeing a glimpse of how other people, even in our own state and communities, live. So I highly recommend that book if you're teaching older gifted kids, or for yourself. Next, this is a very direct one called Who Are You? And it's a kid's guide to gender identity. I want to read you a few places from this book because it's important for you to know what this book entails. It says, Who Are You is an introduction to gender for ages 3+, with straightforward language for talking about how we experience gender, our body, our expression, and our gender identity. Ideal for use in the classroom or at home. It includes an interactive wheel and a guide for adults explaining key concepts and identifying useful discussion points. So they talked about this wheel. This comes in a back envelope, and it you can spin and adjust different parts of it so kids can like self-identify and see kind of where they land on a spectrum. But also these great pages in the back are good supports for adults and teachers to use as they implement this book. I also want to show you a few pages from inside of the book so that you can see kind of how they come about the topic. It has a note for grown-ups. Has a note for grown-ups that goes along with the pages in the back that are resources. It starts by saying, this book is about all of us from the moment we are born, and often even before that, people talk about gender. It is one of many things that make us individuals in the world. We each have our own unique web that includes our body, how we feel inside, and how we express ourselves. Gender is individual, and it is also something that connects us to the people around us. People experience gender in so many ways. It goes on. I'm not going to read all of it to you, but that's the theme of the book. I love the first 2 pages. Powerful statement for self-ownership. This is a story about you. The important thing to remember is that you are the one who knows you best. What a great line, right? And so throughout the book, it talks about like the sex you're assigned at birth, your personal expression of your gender, your identity, terms like cisgender, transgender, that kind of thing, where you land on the gender spectrum. And so it's a lot of different terminology, but approachable at different age levels. Next is another chapter book called Maxi Secrets. Secrets. Yeah, plural. Or What You Can Learn from a Dog in subtitle by Lynn Plordy. This book is a wonderful book because, sorry, I misplaced my notes. It includes a secondary character who's pretty prominent in the book, who is disabled, and lets you understand what it's like to live her life, but also be a friend to her. And then also a disabled dog. And I don't think that that's always like introduced in our world too much, because sometimes we euthanize too much, things like that. And so I know more and more people who are like fostering disabled animals from the kennel. And so I think it's a cool introduction to both of those topics. It also addresses bullying, like most middle grade novels tend to do. It's really focused on teens. So I think this is a good book for ages like 4th grade through 8th grade. I think a high schooler would find it a little young for them, but okay for a 4th grader. It also does talk about death, which is a topic that our gifted kids want to talk about and understand, but they don't always get the opportunity to do so. My last book for this section of the video, and then I'm going to have to move on to a video too because YouTube only lets me put 15-minute videos up, is Let's Celebrate. And it's special days around the world. It's really good if you're trying to start a research project, to research different holidays around the world or different regions in our world and whatnot. It does cover the lesser known holidays, but there's still big holidays in those cultures. Americans just don't know these holidays very well. So let me tell you what holidays are included. Kodomo no Hi, and I'm sorry if I'm butchering those pronunciations, but I think it's important for kids to hear me try to acknowledge other people's languages. That's from Japan. Spring Festival in China. Matariki in New Zealand. Inti Raymi in Peru. Carnival in Brazil. Midsummer in Sweden. Nowruz in Iran, Passover in the United States, New Yam Festival in Nigeria, Navidad in Russia, Eid el-Fitr in Egypt, Dia de Muertos in Mexico, and Diwali in India. So the pages are pretty basic, doesn't tell a ton about it, but it is a great jumping off point to get into those topics. See you in the next video.